Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav. For today's session of JForex Indicators Explained, we will be looking at one interesting indicator. The name is Percent Bollinger Bands. As from the name you can guess that this is one of a derivative indicator of the Bollinger Bands where we utilize the Bollinger Bands to look at the price volatility and see if we have the price trading within the range or if it is reaching for the extreme values, extreme volatility using the standard deviation method. So let us now head to the JForex 4 platform, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the USDJPY chart drawn on the hourly time frame for each candlestick. Here, you can find the percent Bollinger Band quite easily by simply doing a quick search. If you type in the percent, and here all these indicators which have percent in their name will appear, and we have to choose these percent Bollinger Bands. Else, you can do a bit longer route as well. If you simply want to know where this indicator is, it is classified as the momentum indicator, and we have it below this OSMA, the moving average of the oscillator, which I described to you in the last session. Now coming to the percent Bollinger Bands, its function, its concept, its utility. It's quite easy to understand that we have to look at the price volatility, and as I said in my introductory remark, this is simply a derivative of the original Bollinger Band. So if you are well familiar with the concept of the Bollinger Band, you might be aware that the Bollinger Bands are drawn using the EMA, or for that matter, you can even take another moving average. The moving average of other types also possibly can be taken while calculating the Bollinger Bands. And then we take standard deviation. It can be 1.0, it can be 2.0, or you can even vary it depending on your preference. So you go for one moving average, and to that you add the standard deviation, and then you arrive at two band lines, the upper band and the lower band, and that's how these Bollinger Bands are drawn. Now, what we do when we consider the percent Bollinger Band is that we see if the recent price action is happening within the range, within the band, or if it is happening above the range or below the range. So for that, we take the closing value into consideration. And if we have the closing value for last hour, or for that matter, even current hour, above the upper band of these Bollinger Bands, then we will have the output of percent Bollinger Bands above 100. And if we have the closing value of the current hour or last hour below this Bollinger Band, lower band, then we will have the output value below 0. So we have these true markers drawn with range of 0 to 100, and as long as the price action is happening within the Bollinger Band range, we have the output value of this percent Bollinger Band within the range. But as soon as these extreme values are reached, we see that these two markers, the lower level and the upper levels, get reached accordingly. And this level, the 50, can be simply taken into consideration to notify or to denote the price level around the middle band. If we see the closing value dipping below the lower band, then we will have the output value also dipping below 50. And if we have the closing value rising from below 50, from below middle band to above middle band, then we will have the output rising from below 50 to above 50. So the concept, the utility, the concept is easy to understand, and so is its utility. Now coming to its functional aspects, here we can utilize the percent Bollinger Bands pretty much in the similar fashion the way we use Bollinger Bands. You can take into consideration the price moves around this middle line, the 50 line, to look for the trend. If it is bullish or bearish, can be gauged by simply looking at this output of the percent Bollinger Band. And if we have the output dipping from above 50 to below 50, that means the bears are trying to take over. And if we have the output rising from below 50 to above 50, that means bulls are getting the upper hand. And these upper level and lower level of these percent Bollinger Band, the extreme values can be utilized to look for overbought or oversold scenarios. When we have these percent Bollinger Band output above 100, that means the underlying instrument, in this case the USDJPY, has reached the overbought levels. And if we have the output dipping below zero in negative territory, that means the underlying instrument, the USDJPY, has reached oversold levels. But that doesn't really mean that the turnaround is going to happen at the very same point. It might take some time, it might continue to go in the same range. So as is the case here, we saw the extreme on the percent Bollinger Band being reached quite early, but after that this fresh dip happens. But this time around, the percent Bollinger Band value doesn't really dip in the negative territory. And similarly, we can observe the case here also. We get this percent Bollinger Band rising above 100, but for next couple of hours, the USD continues to trend upward, and only after some consolidation, when the percent Bollinger Band output doesn't really cross above 100, we see the dip. So these factors have to be taken into consideration while going for against the trend trade, so that we don't really go for multiple wrong entries. And sometimes it might happen that these extreme values might remain there for some time, and no immediate turnaround is always expected. So in that kind of scenario, we can look for some sort of divergence to take place. If we have the fresh lows being formed, but the percent Bollinger Band's outputs are not really dipping and forming fresh lows, then that sort of divergence gives you the idea of possibility of reversal. And you can utilize the immediate low to look for a fresh entry. Using immediate low, you can keep the stop loss lower. And similar concept can also be utilized to look for short selling opportunities. When we have the consolidation happening on the higher side, you can look for divergence happening closer to these high extreme values, closer to the 100, when we have the percent Bollinger Band output not rising and not making fresh high. But if the price action continues to make fresh high, then that can also be utilized to look for a possible reversal and fresh entries therein. So this way we can utilize these percent Bollinger Bands, but these are not exhaustive ways. You can always come up with your interpretation of how to use these percent Bollinger Bands. I'm just trying to be representative here, and you can I would suggest that you should indeed try out and try to see how you can find novel ways to utilize to take advantage of this indicator. And for making you more familiar with the possibility of customizing this indicator to your advantage, I am also going to explain to you some editing options provided on this platform. So you can devise your own ideas, your own framework using the parameters which you feel comfortable with. So here the moving average period is 20. This is the default setup, and the deviation is standard deviation is of 2. You can play around with these values. You can increase or decrease the moving average period. Suppose if you want it to be lowered, then you can do that as well. If you want even standard deviation to be less, then you can do that as well. And in that scenario, the extreme values are going to be reached quite frequently, as we are looking at the lot more volatile moving average of the lower time frame of only 10 candle periods being counted. And the standard deviation is also quite less. So as a result of that, we are going to have these extreme values reached quite more frequently. But if here we edit it and we increase it to say 50, and standard deviation. Let's try out the standard deviation at 1 only. In that scenario, we have this trend which is likely to stay in the same territory for quite a long, so the volatility is going to be quite less. But here one thing you can notice is that these extreme values once reached are continuing in the same fashion. We are not really seeing extreme values pointing to any immediate reversal. Rather than that, these fresh highs are being formed and formed, and we are not even looking at some sort of divergence. So this is one failing of the indicator which becomes evident on this chart, and as is the case with any other indicator, this indicator is also likely to fail sometimes. So we do have to keep that thing in mind. All right. Now let us try to increase its standard deviation and see what kind of values we will get when we have standard deviation drawn of 2. So here these extreme values are reached less occasionally now compared to what we were looking at when we had the standard deviation of only 1. So this becomes quite important. All right. So this is one combination you can use, and as I said, you can always increase or decrease these input parameters. Now I am using the standard deviation of 3, whereas the moving average period is of 50. All right, so here these extreme values are not really being reached. Rather, we are looking at this middle band playing a key role to help us determine what is the trend. And in this higher volatility, higher time frame parameters, you will have to wait for extreme deviation to take place, and only on those occasions we will have these percent Bollinger Band output values showing significant deviation from the norm. All right. Now coming to the default setup, I will restore these values back to the default parameters. Output is now going to be up and down. Color combination can be modified. You can go for these two different color parameters, and not only this, you can of course go for the color combination of your choice. You can style it up. You can go for different color combination and styling factors as well. You can increase or decrease the width. You can also play around with the transparency factor and levels. You can style these levels up also. Color, you can make these levels more prominent simply by opting for a color which will be more prominent on the chart. All right. So this is now looking a lot more interesting, isn't it? So the output value is going to remain the same. All it does is to make it more stylish, more colorful, and whatever catches your fancy, you can try out that combination. Now coming to the advanced editing option, if you want this output value to remain fixed throughout the current candle period, then you have to opt in for this recalculate on new candle only. And then what happens is this is calculated whenever new candle is plotted, and that output value remains constant throughout the current candle period. Else it will keep varying depending on the current closing value of the current candle. All right. Oh, let me go to the editing option. Highlight the time period zone. Whatever is your calculation period can also be highlighted to make it easier for you to keep in mind what is the calculation period for the indicator. If you want to customize the calculation further, you can go for these 3 customization options. You can use the instrument from the chart, or you can try out to use the instrument of your choice, and that instrument will have this indicator, but on other instrument the indicator won't be available. Similar thing for the candle period can also be applied if you want the indicator to be calculated for any custom period and not from the chart. You can customize this indicator as well. Suppose if you want it to be calculated as per the 30 minutes and not for the candle period of the chart, then you have to go for these customization options and you will have this calculation period customized as per your requirement. 30 minutes in this case, even though the chart's candle period is of hourly time frame. All right. Now I am going to restore it back to use from the chart. The side can be ask or bid. There is going to be minor difference in the output depending on which side you're using. If you want the indicator to be available on all the candle periods, then you have to be in this. You have to opt in for this. If you opt out of this option, then you have to specify on which candle period these indicators should appear, and only on those candle periods this indicator will appear. Now that we have specified 5 minutes and hourly as the time frame on which this indicator is going to be available, only on those time frame this indicator will be available and not on other candle periods. You can notice from this charting for the USDJPY. All right. So guys, I think that's all from my side for demonstration of the concept, the uses, the customization options of this indicator, the percent Bollinger Band. I would suggest that you try it out, give it a try, see what you can do with this indicator to come up with novel ideas, to look for optimum trade entry and exit points while taking the advantage of this indicator. So that's all from my side for today's session. If you want to explore the market further, do check out the Dukascopy analytics page. We have a lot of material related to the current market developments. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us on the Facebook page of the Dukascopy community. And I have also included the link in the bio for these newly released trading platforms. So do check it out, give it a try, and let me know how it works. So that's all from my side. I will be back tomorrow with a new indicator, new setup, new explanation. So do come back. Goodbye.